An all too familiar voice sends chills down your spine. The increasing tension of the violin builds as you try to discover his location. And then Capcom needed some kind of new gameplay direction that not only builds upon Resident Evil 2's success, but allows the title to stand out. And that gameplay mechanic was the hulking bioweapon known as Nemesis. Nemesis is an absolute tyrant that seemingly cannot be defeated, picking himself up every time he has fallen. Resident Evil 3's accomplishment is not in its ability to continue the trend of survival horror, but expanding it by using an invincible being to force the player into an anxious, unwanted position. Turning the hunter into the hunted, on top of escaping an impending city, just adds more tension to the mix. Wanting to diversify the title, Capcom ported over Nemesis to 3 other systems, which we'll be looking at today. You guys knew this video was coming, and it was only a matter of time till we went over this port versus port. A video series highlighting the differences and similarities of the vanilla and port versions of a singular title. We're only a couple days away from the Resident Evil 3 remake. It's coming out this week, at least in the time of this video, so hopefully you guys out there are going to be enjoying both the new title that's coming out and maybe even going back, see what the little differences are with the original version. The reason that I do these port versus ports is because I personally asked the question myself, which version really does work for me and what works and what would I like to play? I've asked this question years ago, and now that we're getting these newer remakes, we're going back to the past to try some of these titles, but we're not really sure which version is. So I'm here to hopefully help you guys pick the version that you guys want. I present to you Resident Evil 3 on the PlayStation 1, the Dreamcast, the PC, and the Gamecube. Oh, don't go away, guys, though. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you guys how you're able to win this Japanese copy of Biohazard 3: The Last Escape. Stick around at the end, I'll give you more info. The boom upon Resident Evil 2's release came with no surprise, with Capcom deciding to seek other sequel projects and variations for the franchise. Some resulted in future projects to come into fruition, such as Hideki Kamiya leading his team to create Resident Evil 4. Others, unfortunately, were cut, which was the fate of poor Hunk preceding Resident Evil 2. Series creator Shinji Mikami needed a title to be released for the PlayStation 1, but before the inevitable iteration of the Sony family. A year and a half was a good pace for Capcom to release Nemesis during PS1's ending life cycle. Nemesis puts us in the shoes of protagonist Jill Valentine seeking to vacate an infested Raccoon City and leave safely. However, this objective is easier said than done when you add a seemingly indestructible being willing to hunt any remaining STARS members, Jill included. Resident Evil 3 is nothing more than what you would simply expect from the franchise, a 3D tank control game with 2D rendered backgrounds in the same fashion that Resident Evil 1 and 2 were designed. The creative beauty about Raccoon City is that it allowed Capcom to switch to familiar and contrastingly different locations. The back-end alleys of Raccoon City provided some much-needed claustrophobia while retaining some nostalgia with RPD's inclusion. Slight mechanical tweaks were newly introduced to the franchise, such as a 180-degree turn, allowing Jill to quickly reverse her direction and blast the zombies to shreds. And then there is Nemesis, who can blast you to shreds, or turn you inside out. Nemesis takes clear inspiration from our T-1000 friend and applies his characteristics to the gameplay. He is a true monstrosity with an ambition to relentlessly kill any STARS members without remorse or a second's notice. It feels as though he can appear during the moments of self-composition and then chases you behind an alley at the speed of Mach 5. The developers succeeded in their goal of making the player useless, as this being can overturn you instantly. It's easy to recognize Nemesis as a fan favorite for countless players and why you are watching this video. What makes a PlayStation version the easiest recommendation is it's the most easily accessible out of all the versions mentioned today. Physically, Nemesis can be played on all PlayStation family consoles except the PlayStation 4, while digitally can be played on the PlayStation 3 and 4 as well as the handheld family. That is no small feat, allowing this to become the most malleable and cheapest version to obtain. Capcom sought to diversify Nemesis' reach and ported it to 3 other platforms. So the question I have for you guys is, do you think Capcom is going to allow for enhanced features? The old habits of these companies die the hardest, and you will see what I mean. If you haven't watched my Resident Evil 2 port versus port, which I highly recommend by the way, you can see that each port provides a unique quality over others, each having a very convincing reason to play or own. N64 version is a technical marvel, cramming so much content into a little cartridge. Dreamcast version sought to include higher quality textures, backgrounds, and quality of life features like the life support system on the VMU. In contrast, the same situation for the Resident Evil 2 ports aren't that applicable here. So let's begin with the PC port of Resident Evil 3, releasing about a year later, and not much change is a baffling situation. The game was a simple install on Windows 10 with no compatibility mode necessary. The title screen brings us to some minimal features not seen in the PlayStation version. For starters, special costumes unlocked from the beginning of the game, giving you a choice of what to pick. Police Jill, Dino Crisis protagonist, the sky is the limit on which cosplay gets you going. Numbered costumes unfortunately make this pick a nuisance to choose, so expect a couple of restarts to get the one you desire. A more powerful platform means that Capcom was able to include some higher quality character models and texture counts. As you can see, there is much more clarity on Jill's face and anatomy that the PlayStation couldn't quite properly define due to the hardware limitations. Working at a base 480p is a welcome approach to bumping up the quality. The pre-rendered backgrounds are a bit of a mixed bag unfortunately, with some sections looking the same as the PlayStation 1, or maybe even worse. The scene here with Brad's introduction has an almost identical background, if not inferior. The 240i background hasn't been reworked to fit the 480p aspect, adding the same, if not more, pixelation. What's more baffling is that the FMVs have also taken a visual hit. There seems to be more noticeable visual noise present compared to the PlayStation 1, but that could be because the game is recorded in a higher resolution. This leads us to our video settings, which can be changed to different aspect ratios all the way to 408 by 1024 in either windowed or full screen. And this is where the problems are introduced, at least in a subjective manner for me. The game upscales the resolution, backgrounds, and models to give the given number, but character models and backgrounds just don't blend seamlessly, like in the PlayStation version. It starts looking like an emulator, and that may or may not be a benefit depending on who you are. If you aren't a fan of the original look and want a better visual presentation, this isn't a bad version. The controls also introduce a hurdle that some may or may not be happy about. The initial control scheme is nothing short but atrocious, mapped to a very old PC layout that is not only outdated, but confusing to play. Button mapping can be changed and reworked so WASD can be utilized. However, if you want to go with a controller, there will be some necessary tweaking as well. PC Nemesis natively doesn't use controllers, but programs like Joy-to-Key allow for full keyboard macros to be applied to controller inputs, Bluetooth controllers included. For many people, myself included, this is a mixed bag, introducing a bit more problems than I would have liked to have. Higher quality models and higher aspect ratios are a welcome inclusion, but combating PC controls and getting them to work every time you boot is a pretty big pain in the ass if you ask me. But hey, what do I know, right? So funny little thing to mention, the Dreamcast version in North America came out before the Windows version, and yet the Dreamcast port is based on the Windows version. Chronological time doesn't seem to be Capcom's strong suit. The Dreamcast version is another simple port of what was released to the public with little to no reworking, something that Capcom seemingly introduces in every generation. I'll touch upon this gripe on the reload sequence later in a future video. All of the benefits of the Windows port are included in the Dreamcast: inclusion of higher quality models, same old backgrounds, and proper controller interface is present. FMVs are a frustrating conundrum of this port. Resident Evil 2 included a better frame rate and viewing window that the originals didn't, and yet Capcom seemingly left that version untapped. The Dreamcast deserves better, and yet nothing has been changed. Call me an idiot if you want that I'm asking too much, but when Resident Evil 2 has a better Dreamcast port in almost every way, you can't say that I'm wrong on this part. The nice benefit that's included is your health meter on the VMU, similar to Resident Evil 2. While I think having both an ammo and health meter would have been beneficial, it baffles me why health was included when it's evident to depict on your character, rather than when your magazine is running low. It is the little missed opportunities like this why these ports are frustrating in my eyes. It provides newly beneficial updates but takes a step back to get these working. Unlike Resident Evil 2, feels like this is a simple cash grab while Capcom worked on Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil 4. But again, can you blame me for being so picky?
Listen, he's coming for us. We're both gonna die.
What are you saying?
You'll see.
Part of an exclusive deal between Capcom and Nintendo to bring the main line to the Gamecube, Resident Evil 3 was inevitably ported, and the features that came with it, you guessed it, it is virtually the same as the Dreamcast version minus a couple caveats. The title maintained its uniformity by including the Resident Evil 3 to the newer soundbite we all know.
Resident Evil 3.
It was unexpected to open the game and find out that the FMVs were actually at a much higher frame rate, which is properly in line with the Resident Evil 2 port. While the viewing window is still small, there is virtually no visual noise present with very nice clarity. Capcom seems to have taken the time to clean these up and give them a boost. Moving to gameplay, as many commenters have mentioned in the Resident Evil 2 port versus port, that port was noticeably darker, and the same case can be said here. From here on, however, that's kind of it with the features. You get the same models as the other versions, the exclusion of the costumes unlocked in the beginning, and backgrounds might be slightly smoother than other presented versions. There isn't much to this other than what has already been restated. While this detracts from the scope of the video, I feel it is worth mentioning that a Dolphin emulation mod called Resident Evil 3 Seamless HD is an impressive texture mod that seeks to essentially remaster the title. Everything from the 2D backgrounds to the HUD is changed and modified to keep the essence of the original game, but with brand new assets. It's nothing short of impressive, and a good recommendation for those willing to go the emulation route. All of these ports are honestly a very mixed bag, since they not only bring little to new features to the table, they don't add much to the experience other than slightly higher quality assets. It's disappointing in my opinion, but hey, don't take my word for it. What do you guys feel is the best version that suits your needs? It's kind of ironic, Resident Evil 3 was actually my first Resident Evil game. A friend let me borrow it and I really enjoyed the title, and yet going through all of the Resident Evil 3 ports, I kind of had a mixed bag really of everything that was going on. There were some versions I just didn't like, and in comparison to Resident Evil 2, which I felt like it had pretty awesome ports, it was a night and day thing. It was just something I didn't like that Capcom was doing, at least in my eyes, but maybe it's just me. And this is why I'm doing this segment of the video. I'm going to be putting direct footage with each other, all of the versions, so you guys can see which version works for you. So without further ado, let's go through each version, and what do you guys think is the version that works for you?
Resident Evil. Resident Evil. Resident Evil 3.
Brad, hang in there. Why isn't someone doing something about this?
I didn't know you were still alive, Jill. The police aren't trained for this kind of situation. What could they do? Listen, he's coming for us. We're both gonna die.
What are you saying?
You'll see. You'll see. He's after STARS members. There's no escape.
And that's it. Hopefully this should get you prepared enough to appreciate what we got in the past versions and now compare it with hopefully the remake, and I think everyone's going to be enjoying it. From the demo, it's very hard, it's very crude, and it's very vicious. They truly made Nemesis a tyrant to behold, and that's something I'm absolutely happy to see. And while I might not get it on launch, I'm very excited to pick it up when I can. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I very do much appreciate it. If you're interested in following me, all of my links are down below. I also Twitch, so you're more than welcome to follow me there. And I know a lot of you have stuck around to see what the whole giveaway thing is, and I'm gonna let you know right now. We're going to be giving away a copy of Biohazard 3 The Last Escape. This is a PS1 Japanese copy, meaning this is only a Japanese version, so take that with what you will. Down below is a link to a website called Gleam. All the rules are listed right there. This is unfortunately going to be a US giveaway, as I'm gonna probably doing more giveaways in the future, and I want to test the waters for other states, so apologize to Europe and everyone else. So you have to follow me on two places to make this possible. One, you have to follow me on YouTube, of course, and the second, you have to follow me on Twitter. That way you can get updates on the giveaway and what's going on. After those two mandatory requirements, there are other entries that you could do, such as following my Twitch and stuff like that. Everything is listed down below. The last day to enter is going to be the last day of April, so you guys have plenty of time to get those entries. One last thing, no bot accounts or repost accounts. I know what's what, so no. But hopefully this should keep you guys staying inside. That way you're enjoying it, and please stay safe with everything that's going on. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you have any questions, please let me know on my Twitter, and I'll see you very soon.